Want to bring in Congressman Devin Nunes, Republican of California, ranking member of the House Intel Committee. Welcome back, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Listen, overall, nobody knows intelligence like you do, national security like you do. Your thoughts on what happened on Election Day and where we go from here?
Well, look, I'm disappointed in the Supreme Court. I think at a minimum, the court should have heard this. Needs to be clear, because moving forward, we can't have another election like this when you have half of America who doesn't believe the results. So I think the Supreme Court could have heard this. I don't know if they could overturn what some of the states had already decided, but they could have a landmark decision that could spur action across the country. Now, I understand that there's more lawsuits that are on the way. We'll see if any of the courts will actually take this up. But, you know, I've been pretty close to what happened in Nevada, and I know a lot of people haven't talked about Nevada, but there is massive fraud in Nevada for sure. And, you know, that's the state that I follow closely. I know the former attorney general out there, Adam Laxalt. It's very, very concerning. And I don't know why, you know, if they're so confident in their victory, I've been saying this since right after the election, Greg. If Biden's so confident, you think he wouldn't want to just kind of limp into office with half of America not believing that he actually won.
It's kind of amazing, actually. And I noticed there seems to be a certain lack of confidence from the Biden team. Maybe it's my imagination. You heard the audio tape, Hunter Biden. The problems that he has are endless. The mainstream media denied that it was a problem. And it seems like the federal government may have actually concealed all of his issues. I'm learning now of 2 federal investigations, 2 separate U.S. attorneys looking into Hunter during the election, before the election, rather. What does that tell you about the deep state? And I'd like your thoughts overall about the deep state that we hear so much about.
Well, I would say this. First of all, that recording that you played at the beginning of this is a little unusual. I don't know of any guy worth $325 billion. Now, I do believe that this guy that supposedly was his friend or partner or whatever, he did disappear. But just the fact that those types of conversations would be occurring and then having it never been being investigated. And that brings me to your point and to your question. I still don't believe that they're doing a real investigation here. I think, you know, you hear the only thing the mainstream media is reporting is tax, not paying taxes. And I could see this very easily swept back under the rug to where there's essentially going to be a hand slap and not looking at the larger picture. So this should have been investigated a long time ago. And the fact that the FBI stood on this and hid this information from the Congress when we were impeaching the President of the United States is, well, I don't want to say it and get you kicked off of, you know, get you in trouble with the FCC.
Okay. So let's take this on. You mentioned the mainstream media. You know, for a long time, I didn't really care. I was kind of amused by how biased they were, and I left it at that. But now we're seeing, I mean, this is information, unless you went looking for it, unless you engaged conservative media, you would not have known about the very serious allegations surrounding Hunter Biden, the very serious issues, and that had a real impact on the election. A lot of folks, I believe, would have changed their mind had they known more about, I mean, the money from the Moscow mayor's widow. That has not been debunked. So it's deeply troubling. Anyway, where do you go from here? Oh, actually, let me ask you about January 6th first. You know what happens on January 6th. You need a congressman, a member of Congress, and you need a senator to raise an objection to ceding those electoral votes. Will you be one of those members?
Look, unless there's evidence in the court, I'm not sure yet. I think we have to see what the evidence is. We have to be able to present it. We have to build a case to the American public. And knowing what you said, that you've got, you know, I shouldn't even call it mainstream media, quite frankly, Greg. And really, you shouldn't even call yourself conservative media. I mean, look, I know you're a prime time at night opinion guy. I got that. But, you know, when I watch, you know, your news during the day, I actually see news that I remember seeing when I was a kid. Like, I don't think it's conservative. I think it's just reporting things as you see them. And I think there's several news operations that are doing that. The mainstream media, we got used to calling them mainstream media, but really what they are is they're just an arm of the Democratic National Committee. And I've, for a long time have been encouraging, after being personally attacked and slandered nearly on a daily basis by every news media organization in this country, what I've been trying to get my colleagues to do is not to talk to these people. Just don't talk to them. There's no reason. All you're doing is giving these so-called mainstream media outlets, you're giving them credibility. I don't talk to them. I don't look at them in the hall. If I happen to bump into them here in Washington, I just ignore them. And if they get in my face, although with COVID time, of course, none of this has been happening. But I take out my camera sometimes and I interview them if I have to.
Well, that's actually that's a great idea.
That typically gets rid of them.
And print folks can be the worst because you'll talk to them for 20 minutes and then they take the 8 seconds that they like or that proves their point and fits their template, and they forget about everything else, and they can make anybody look like a jerk. At least when you're on TV, you know it's your voice, you know what you're saying. All right, I understand, and I respect your answer, by the way. You're not sure yet, and you need to see more. What's your sense on the other side? You got friends in the Senate, I'm sure. I don't think one has gone on the record yet to say, yes, I will. Barbara Boxer did it in 2005. I can't imagine that one senator won't come forward. We already know Jim Jordan will, Mo Brooks. Do you think one senator we can count on?
Look, I don't know. I've talked to a few of the senators this week since I'm back here in the swamp right now. I do believe it's going to take some very substantial evidence. You just had General Flynn on. I think there's some questions that I have that need to be answered. Like, number one, the tapes in Georgia, those ballots. What the hell went on there? And I want to know also who owns Dominion. Who owns that company? They're running in 30 states in this country. We're using their machines. We ought to know who owns them.
Were you ever in the dairy business before politics? What did you do before politics?
Well, I grew up on a farm and ran a dairy, and I'm in the vineyard business. So I'm in the great San Joaquin Valley of California.
Love it. Love it. Thank you very much, Congressman Devin Nunes. Enjoy the break. Merry Christmas. And we'll have you back soon. Thank you very much, sir.